Okay, today we are going to replace the capacitors and the diodes inside our AC adapter for the Super Nintendo. And as you can see, this is SNS model 002. I think they're mostly the same. There might be some minor differences, but really all that's inside this thing is a big transformer, some capacitors, and or one capacitor and a diode and a resistor. Not a whole lot going on in there. Now, the screws are these rectangle-looking things, and so that's an unusual screw. But I used this tool here to to get them out. So it came from my iFixit toolkit. So someone gave me that for Christmas, and this little tools come in pretty handy. Anyways, I've already taken the two screws out just to save time, and this is difficult to do with one hand anyways while filming. So the capacitor I got from mordoffgames.com. It is the high temperature, long life, high quality capacitor. And then I got the two rectifiers or diodes, and from them. I mean, you know, if you're going to come in here and replace this capacitor, you might as well replace, you know, the diodes. And the diodes are right there, and then the other one is right there. So I'm going to take this out of its case. It just slips out over the little prongs here. Okay. So pretty simple. Here's the circuit board, and then there's the two parts right there, the two diodes, two black things. Now the diodes have a stripe on them. Where's my pointer? The diodes have a stripe on them, and it's very important you go back with the new diodes with the stripe. Usually there's some indicator on here that says which way the stripe goes, but looking at this one, yeah, okay, so right there, the little triangle with the line in it, that tells you which way the stripe goes. Stripe goes towards the line. Okay, well good. That takes any guesswork out of it. You can see this one was repaired before. This right here. So, all right. So now, let's see if I can actually film this. This might be difficult. So, okay. So I've got my solder sucker here. There are many varieties of this. This is the one I'm going to use. It's pretty simple. You just squeeze the bubble, heat up your solder, and you just let go. So let's see here if this works. Oops. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this with one hand or not. Stupid video. All right, so, and sometimes, you know, if this solder is really, really old, sometimes adding new solder, you know, makes a big difference. Okay, so it's clear I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand here. Let me see if I can get my phone positioned here. And okay, so I'm just heating it up, and then I'm going to try and bend these legs while the solder is kind of molten, so I don't damage any of the traces or anything like that. So I might have to add some solder to this. All right, and then the capacitor. If you notice, the capacitor has a stripe on it that indicates a negative, so the other side is positive. So you definitely want to get that in the same way that it came out. See that it's loose, so I just want to bend this leg over so it'll come out easy. Okay, so here it is, out. And the stripe was towards me, so I'm going to put this back in the way it came out. And then if you ever forget, you know, which way, or it's like, oh dog, which way? This little white silk right here indicates negative, and then there's a positive symbol there. So you know, if you forget or get in a hurry, and then you can still figure it out. It's pretty easy. So, all right, so my capacitor goes here. Bend a couple of legs. Go ahead and solder this on. Oh. No, turned off my iron. All right, so while that's heating up, I'm gonna take out these rectifiers here. So, you know, the rectifiers do go bad over time. You know, it is those two parts that turn AC into DC. So they're really very important pieces in here. And so if you're going to change the capacitor, by all means, change the diodes too with some fresh new ones. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, we don't need the solder sucker anymore. Everything's out. So we're gonna bend these leads here. I really do a very bad job of videoing, I'm sorry to say. But I'm going to bend the leads, poke them through here. Make sure I get the stripe going the same way that it was when I took it out. And now the other one. I'm going to bend it a little bit here. All right, so my diodes are in. My capacitors are in. Now I just need to solder them on and then put it back together. As you can see, there's literally nothing else inside here. So there's not a whole lot going on in this thing. Make sure you got a good hot solder connection. You don't want any cold solder joints. You want it to kind of flow and look like a mirror, you know, when it's cooling. If you get all bumpy and looks like a lunar surface, then your solder job didn't do very well then. All right, well, that is it. We're gonna trim the legs off. Let's just do kind of a final inspection. Make sure that we didn't make any mistakes. You know, I don't like this though. See that gap where I'm gonna heat this up, and I'm gonna push this capacitor down so it sits flush. So it just kind of pushed up on me, and so I'm just gonna kind of just reflow these joints to where it sits nice and flush now. Okay, all right. Well, that is pretty much it. I'm going to get our strain relief, this little part of the wires right here, into this little groove. Okay. And then this does have an orientation, the lid. So we're going to put that like that. Put the screws back in. Use my little iFixit tool here. When you're putting screws into plastic, you also want to try and find the original thread so you're not cutting new threads. It should go in pretty easy. If you're having to struggle with it, you might want to back it out and see if you can't find the original thread grooves. And so, plus this tool is probably not meant for this rectangle head thing, and so it seems to work pretty well, but there's probably a more specific purpose-built tool for that rectangle head. Well, there you have it. That's a totally rebuilt Super Nintendo power supply, ready for another 30 years.